Hey everyone, it's Ben Cecchini back with another episode of the Give and Grow podcast. Our social emotional learning series is all about giving parents, teachers, adults, coaches, even the tools and the tips for raising healthy, loving human beings. And today I'm super excited to have Callie Goss with us. Callie is a district social emotional learning coordinator in Franklin Northeast in Vermont. She also was a classroom teacher in elementary and middle school for 9 years and has kids of her own at 2, 4, and 6. So she knows what she's talking about when it comes to kids. And I'm just excited to pick her brain a little bit today. Callie, how are you doing today?
Good. Thank you so much for having me. I'm excited.
Yeah, as are we. And we got to touch a little bit on like the athletic background and coaching youth sports as well. So I'm sure we'll have like a little mix of all the conversation here today just around interacting with kids and supporting their mental health or overall health and doing so through social emotional learning. So with that said, Callie, can you just break down like in your perspective, what is social emotional learning and why it's important for young kids?
Yeah, sure. So SEL, I think the acronym has developed a world of its own, but really we're just talking about the development of social skills and emotional skills that help kids and everyone interact with the world and develop relationships, develop healthy relationships with the people around them. So the leading organization that around this topic, Castle, they break down the social and emotional skills to things like
Mhm.
having a healthy identity, managing your emotions, working on goals yourself and with others, having empathy for others, making responsible decisions. Um, the main thing here, though, that is that when we're talking about SEL, many people develop either political opinions or just really rigid stances on the topic because they envision it as something extra or like
Mhm.
something extra we're adding to the plates of teachers or the plates of coaches. And like we're not in the business of teaching kids social skills when really SEL is not something extra. It's something that helps us access experiences. So SEL or the development of social emotional skills, it helps kids access school.
Mm.
Like if you think about it, the kids who are most successful in school, they have positive relationships with teachers. They can maintain focus when a lot of other things are competing for their attention. They can solve problems with peers. And whether you're talking about the classroom or the playing field, like kids who have strong social and emotional skills can navigate and can access sports and school in a way that other kids can't. So
Mm.
um, it's really an angle that it's not really controversial. It's like everyone who works with kids wants them to develop these skills.
Yeah, beautiful. I appreciate you adding in. And it's cool to hear just like if anybody that's listening here is listening to other episodes, it's cool how there's always this same core of the definition of social emotional learning, like the social emotional skills, but like the importance, everybody has their own perspective, their own experiences of how this is impacted, how this is supportive. And I just really appreciate you sharing, your perspective on that. It's really powerful and helpful. And especially that piece around providing access to academics, to sports, in ways that we want all of our kids to do, healthy, enjoyable, with relation, all those things. So let's dive in right into parenting. Obviously, your experience and you're growing a family of your own. Like, how can parents model emotional awareness and regulation for their children at home?
Yeah, so um, I think the main thing is remembering that modeling emotional awareness is not the same thing as never causing hurt or emotional hurt in your relationships. It's really about making sure you're modeling, naming emotions as you're experiencing them, and remembering that you're modeling ways to regulate yourself when things get hard. So, I have a friend who, whenever her kids play one specific game, it gets very loud and overstimulating, and she kind of feels that in her body. So a lot of times our own outbursts are related to us feeling dysregulated. So she
Mm.
like pops her AirPods in whenever this game happens, modeling, regulating herself for her kids. Another thing to think about is apologizing when you need to. So when you do say something you don't mean, or just don't handle something the way that in a way that you're proud of, just own and reconnecting with your kids. So Dr. Becky Kennedy, who has a podcast, Good Inside, she's published a lot of books too. She has a TED Talk about the power of repair and just
Mm,
making sure that we are owning our mistakes and owning the hurt we've caused when with people that we're in relationship with. So it means like acknowledging the hurt you've caused, and reaching out for repair. It doesn't mean adding like I acted this way and I'm sorry, but you,
mm,
10-year-old, did
mhm,
this. It really just means being comfortable saying I did this. That probably didn't feel so good, did it? The more
mhm,
we model empathetic responses and kind of owning our responsibility, the more our kids can do that too.
mhm. Thank you for that. And I was gonna ask, but you already did it, to like add in what that sounds like. How does that, and it's not the but you did this and you shouldn't do it this way, or whatever it is, but I think that's so helpful, at least for me too, like learning and stepping into parenthood soon here myself. And even just these are relationship skills, whether it's you and your kid or you and somebody else, but being able to apologize in an effective way where people true it's heartfelt and it's and said in a way that's able to be received, um, in the way that it's meant to be. So just really appreciate you sharing that, Callie. Um, Now, kind of along those same lines, in terms of like conflict resolution, you mentioned repair. Like, how would you suggest that parents kind of guide kids or approach conflict resolution with peers?
Um, I feel like this is a hot button topic recently because the buzzword of gentle parenting sometimes I think gets mixed up in or it gets confusing. Like how should we or should we even involve ourselves in our kids' problem? Because like yes, they're kids,
Mm,
let kids be kids. Sometimes let them figure it out, but also we have a responsibility to teach our kids explicitly how to solve problems with peers. And there's a way. I'm going to quote someone else here, Eli Harwood. She's a therapist and um, she is big on attachment theory and connection based parenting. She has a phrase, or I guess um, a sequence of questions like, am I allowing? Am I plowing? Am I empowering? So
mm,
there's kind of a sequence of things you can do. So if your child is in conflict with um, another peer where they're causing hurt and harm and an adult needs to intervene. So the steps that I kind of have in my head, you want to intervene in a way that protects your kid or other kids. You want to validate their feelings because no behavior change can happen if you don't feel heard first, right?
mhm,
Whether you're talking about
mhm,
kids or adults. And then you want to offer some type of choice or skill that they can use in the future.
mm,
So, and the way that would look differently, some parents, if you're allowing, it's like, well, kids will be kids. And then while your kid is like throwing a rock at somebody else, like not okay.
right.
Um, if you're plowing, then you jump in and you solve it for them. It's resolved and then but no skills are really learned in the process.
Mm,
And if you're empowering, you're intervening in a way that stops the harm, but you're also leaving kids with something, a tool, a new skill they can use for next time. So to give you an example, um, my daughter, who's 2, was setting up a dollhouse scene. It was very intricate, and my son, who's 4, loves playing with her, but doesn't but sometimes plays in a very different way than she does.
mhm,
So so he started walking up, and she was feeling very protective of her intricate dollhouse scene and turned around and shoved him to the ground. And so I walked over. So if you think about those steps, first you intervene, right? Like being
mhm,
physically close to the situation will help you intervene. Validate feelings. So you worked really hard on this dollhouse scene and you don't want anyone to touch it. That's what she
mhm,
was feeling. Suddenly that makes her feel heard and she's able to hear other ways of being, right? After she feels heard
mhm,
and seen. You worked really hard on this dollhouse scene and you don't want anybody else to touch it. I can't let you hurt other people, right? That's setting a boundary or holding an expectation that is non-negotiable, right? We don't
Mm-hmm.
hurt other people, we don't push people's bodies, we don't cause harm to other people. Um, Now, how could let's try again. How could we tell him what you need? That's really what I would say. So,
Mm-hmm.
you worked really hard on this. You don't want anybody else to ruin it. I can't let you hurt other people. Try again. Tell him what you need. So
Mm-hmm.
then she said, "Don't touch us. I'm working on it." And then it was solved, right? So she had a
Mm-hmm.
chance, okay, next time someone gets close to my stuff, I can just say what I need instead of using
Mm-hmm.
my body to solve the problem. So even though, and it may take doing that 5 times, 10 times, 15
Right.
times, but you're kind of leaving a seed or planting a seed for how to solve a conflict in the future, even if you're not there.
Mm-hmm.
And again, it's super slow, and you know, working with kids, right? It's not like you say something once or you model doing something once and then they just
No.
have it. But if you can
Mm-hmm.
have that kind of three-step process in your head, like validate feelings, hold an expectation or a boundary, and then offer a skill or a choice,
Mm-hmm.
um, that's a good framework for helping kids solve their own problems, but also giving them tools to make sure that they're not hurting or harming other people.
Yeah, oh, I love it so much. Thank you for that. There's like always these super powerful gems that I love taking away from these conversations, and that feels like just a super powerful one today. Just yeah, appreciate you breaking down with the example and just the three-step process at 1, 2, 3, baby. You know, like that, like let's keep it simple, like and just real life. So thank you, Callie, for dropping that in here. Well, it's like I feel like we were kind of segueing into it with your example here, but what's like uh something you'd like to remind parents of, whether it's in one of those moments or just in general, like what's a one thing that is like yeah, it could be helpful for them to remember.
Um, Again, nothing I'm offering here is like original. I've learned from so many people
I love that too.
in the process of teaching and parenting and leading SEL work. Um, so one time, and I don't even remember where it's from. It was probably could be quoted to a number of people. One person said, when kids are really struggling with their emotions or things just feel chaotic, either on your team or in your classroom or with your kids at home, remember, kids are not giving you a hard time, they are having a hard time.
Mm,
So no one goes into practice or goes into school determined to make the day rough and determined to make other people's lives hard. Everyone at their core wants to feel successful, and that's true even more so with kids. They want to feel successful.
mm,
They want to feel like attuned relationships with other people. So when they're when it appears like they're struggling, they're not trying to give you a hard time, they're just having a hard time. And I
mhm,
think it's important to remember in terms of child development, um, kids can regulate themselves in hard moments the same way adults can. Like you and I can kind of get back to our um, frontal lobe quicker and where we can
mm,
use like logic and reasoning to kind of calm ourselves down, choose a strategy that works. Kids really in hard moments, they can benefit from borrowing our calm.
mm,
So I think this is another Eli Harwood idea that our job is not to stop negative emotions from happening with our kids. And I think many parents see it as their job when their kids are having a hard time that they have to stop it as soon as possible,
mm,
and we have to just help them feel happy again or stop crying or calm down. And if we remember that our job is to help kids navigate the waters of really hard emotions, and
mhm,
they're able to do that then when they can borrow our calm. So if we work on ourselves and making sure we're staying calm and regulated, then kids will feel that and they will be able to co-regulate with us and then
mhm,
kind of move through the hard emotions as they come. Not push them to the
mhm,
side, not suppress them, not squash them, just they we will be able to move through it together if we focus on
mhm.
our own calm first. And then in terms of parenting, one of the things I tell myself a lot is how I respond to my kids in hard moments eventually becomes their inner voice.
Ooh.
Right? Like when you're an adult and something hard happens in your day,
Hmm.
what you say to yourself to get yourself through it probably has something to do with your close caregivers and how they helped you through a hard time.
Mm,
So
mm,
you want when your kids grow up, all of us want our kids to be independent and have self-compassion. So your tone and your words when your kids are struggling really matter because you want their internal voice to be one that is supportive and kind and resourceful.
hmm. I feel like that totally ties in with what you were saying before around, how parents can, like, you might mess this up because
Oh yeah,
these are all
we do
like
every day.
beautiful. Yeah, these are beautiful, beautiful reminders. Chances are you're gonna, yeah, every day have some sort of mess up along this line. Can you repair it? But these reminders are just so, so powerful. I'm excited for people to hear this, rewind that back. Listen, I'm excited to listen again to excuse me, everything that you just shared because they just seem like such powerful points. Controlling your own calm. There was a term you threw out there, and I want to make sure I understand exactly what you're saying, and everybody else does too. When you talk about attuned relationships, and that co-regulation, can you just explain a little bit, level deeper on like what that attuned relationship looks like? What are its qualities and characteristics, and how can we foster that?
Yeah, so this word comes from Eli Harwood. If you haven't read um, her book, Raising Securely Attached Kids, whether even if you don't have kids of your own, if you work with kids in any capacity, you will be able to pick up nuggets like this from her book. So, an attuned relationship is um, having a close connection with someone that where you feel seen and it's able to weather the ups and downs of a relationship. So you can go through hard times without harming the relationship. So I would
Mm.
define it as a close connection with, or I would say a close, resilient connection with the kids that we support.
Mm, beautiful. Yes, thank you. And thanks for dropping in the books and just the names of these authors. I'm definitely going to be sharing these in the description, and in the blog post that we have here so people will be able to easily find those and like just continue to dive deeper if they feel called to do so. So thanks for breaking that down. Kind of um shifting out of like conflict resolution, potentially challenging emotions, those sort of things when it comes to praising children effectively so they feel confident without necessarily becoming overly like reliant on that
Mm.
praise. What are some tips that you have there to, yeah, to praise effectively?
Um, so I think the best tip that I have learned is to describe instead of evaluate. So some people say like, why is this important? Like every kid needs positive reinforcement, right? Positive reinforcement is something everyone understands. We all want to receive praise. It feels good when other people notice what we do. It feels good to be successful. But if we constantly evaluate what kids do and say, then we're positioning them to always seek others' approval, right?
Mm,
So it's like they will lack their internal gauge of like, is this good? Or um, or am I proud of this?
mm-hmm,
Now, if they always rely on other people's judgments, that will also kind of make them shy away from challenges on their own. Because if I have
mm-hmm,
always told you, you are the best three-point shooter I know,
mm-hmm,
and then I watch you for 20 minutes just shoot three-pointers, and then you miss like 90% of them, then suddenly you're like, am I still good at three-point shooting? Does she still think I'm good? Then suddenly
mm-hmm,
your self-concept starts to waver, right? If I've always told you that you're the best and you're amazing at this, then I've tied like your worth with how well you do.
mm,
And you want to make kids kind of have an internal gauge of like, am I proud? Is this good? Without constantly looking for other people or constantly being afraid to like try something new because what if I mess up and I'm suddenly not good anymore?
mm-hmm,
Um, So describe instead of evaluate. So this comes from, I'm blanking on the authors, but How to Talk So Little Kids Will Listen. So
Mhm.
I've done some work in our district with different groups working on this skill too. So here's an example. So you can describe what you see. So your kid brings home an art project um, and shows you, and they say, "Do you like it?" And our gut response is like, yes, oh my gosh, I love it. It's so much. So instead, describe instead of evaluate. So you could say something like, look at those long eyelashes. The face looks so realistic. Then you're just describing, right? You're reflecting
Mhm.
back to them what they've done. Another thing you could do is, I was just thinking of a sports example too, describe what you see. If you're looking at someone's throw or pitch in baseball, like, how did I do? Instead of like, you're amazing, you're the best pitcher on this team, say something about what you saw related to their form. Like, yep, your follow through on that one was much more pronounced than than the ones that you did previously.
Mhm.
You could also describe, when you think about different things, you could describe the effect on other people. Um, so kids see like, oh, when you do this, it's positively impacting people in other ways. So my daughter was helping her little sister get ready and zipped up her coat so they could both go outside. And she was like, Mom, I, she's definitely praise seeking, right? So she's like, Mom, I zipped up Hadley's coat and now she's ready. And so if I describe the effect on others, I could say something like, perfect, she'll be really warm when we go outside, and now we can get outside so much faster. Thank you for that.
Mhm.
So I
Mhm.
describe the effect that Grace had on other people instead of just like, you're an amazing big sister.
Right.
Because is she is she? Yes, but are there moments when sometimes she makes mistakes or causes hurt to her siblings? Yes, but she's still like a worthy person who we love no matter what, right? So
Mhm.
describing the effect that she has on other people is just more powerful and long term than always telling people that they're the best or they're amazing.
Right.
Another a thing that I work on is I have a little cue in my head to just when someone asks you for praise or when a kid or a player or a student just positions themselves to an adult and says like, is this good? What do you think of this? Just challenge yourself. The first word that should come out of your mouth should be you. So
Mm.
like, you did it. Um, you finished 3 problems. You hit 50 hour with your pitch. You
Mhm.
hit 3 pointers in a row. If you start with you, then you make it about them and you're more apt to describe. Like what's about to come after is more
Ah.
likely to be a description instead of an evaluation. Um, and I think this was in the same book too, but another thing I try to remind myself is sometimes the most appropriate praise um, is saying nothing. Because
Mm.
I think, especially with social media, there's so much pressure now to make the most of every moment with kids and be like, am I shaping them into the person I want them to become with my words? Am I saying the right thing? Sometimes you just don't have to say anything, right? Because you want kids to want to do a good job and to enjoy what they're doing without always needing input from other people. And the
Mhm.
example in this book that I read was like, if you were making, I think it was about making dinner, like if you were chopping vegetables and your partner was with you in the kitchen, it would be weird and annoying if someone's like, wow, the way you hold that knife, is expert. You're cutting so many onions. You're like, look at you move on to the pep." It's
Mm.
just unnecessary, right? Sometimes your kids are engrossed in getting better or losing themselves in activity in a really fun and valuable way where we don't need to insert ourselves. Sometimes
Mhm.
just leaving them alone to enjoy the process
Yeah.
is going to be the best thing that they need.
Yeah, it really sounds like you're supporting them in staying present in those moments as well, which mindfulness is a big thing that we like to share with the students that we connect with. But like by just sitting back and observing and allowing them to continue to flow with whatever they're doing without your input, yeah, they're staying connected to that process, and like you mentioned, just enjoying doing what they're doing.
Yeah.
um yeah, thank you so much for all of these tips, Callie. Like there's just I can't even you've shared so many that it's kind of hard to like I don't need to say anything here.
Look at you, just
Yeah,
taking a strategy and
but
running with it.
but truly, like as you were sharing, I recognize even as an adult today looking for praise from other people, like, hey, I'm doing this thing, like, or from my partner, and those sorts of things. And so I can see how that style of parenting or potentially teaching or just interacting with somebody younger can turn into the things that I experience now and the things that I'm unlearning. So I really felt connected with that as you were sharing it. um just the last question that I have for you, Callie. How can parents collaborate with their schools, and their teachers to support their students with SEL, both at home and in the classroom?
Um, a couple things here. So, logistically, I think one of the ways my own parenting has gotten better since I've led SEL work at a district is making sure that when I'm helping my kids solve problems, I'm my job is not to fix problems. My job, whenever possible, is to teach a skill or introduce an alternative that they could use for next time.
Mm-hmm.
So I think remembering as parents that your job isn't to fix things or your job isn't to stop negative emotions from happening. It's really to give our kids alternative strategies to use next time. And I think
Mm-hmm.
in terms of what we can control as parents, we'll never have control over our kids, right? As much as some of us want to control what happens to them, control what they do so we're setting them up for a successful future where they're happy and healthy. We can't control our kids, but what we can control is really being dedicated to having a close relationship with them. And when we do that, we're making sure we have that attuned relationship that Eli Harwood talks about.
Mm-hmm.
When you have an attuned relationship with your child, you're it's able to weather a lot of storms, and you're also
Mm-hmm.
setting your kids up for developing trusting relationships with other adults too, that they can
Mm-hmm.
take guidance from. And that's really what schools need, right? When you focus on having a close connection with your own kids, you're setting them up for displaying social skills and emotional skills with trusting adults at school too. So
Mm-hmm.
that is what you can control at home, and that I think is what would be most helpful at school.
Awesome. Yes, thank you, Callie. Once again, just thank you for your energy, for sharing, for taking these bits, for doing all the research you did and being able to repurpose it here. And it sounds like obviously you're doing that the same for all your parents and teachers in your district. But now we get to share it a little bit wider. So thank you, and thank you to everybody that had a chance to listen in today. I hope you're walking away with something new and valuable, or even just some friendly reminders to continue on your journey, and know it's okay, hey, to make mistakes, and how can we repair? How can we control our calm? I really enjoyed that. And in total, our conversation today, Callie. Thank you.
Yes, thank you, Ben.